What is happening, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the SportsCard CEO, where we talk about collections and connections in the sports cards hobby, helping you become your very own SportsCard CEO. Matt Ham, Bubba Wilson, Eric Mandelkern. Gentlemen,
What's happening?
dude,
What's going on?
it continues to be just a blast to jump on with you guys. Like as Kern, you were saying before we went live, like we are all in, man. We are all committed to this. Like schedules, you know what I mean? We're making our schedules, making it happen, and we're getting fantastic feedback from our listeners. So thank you guys for tuning into this, guys. We've kind of had this tradition now of starting it off by sharing a little bit of the week in the hobby. So Kern, go ahead and kick it off with what's going on in your world.
And what's not going on in my world right now? I had a morning, as you know, this morning, but I got locked out of my office, so I almost didn't make this episode. But
Glad you're here, though.
yeah, I'm glad to be here. And as I was saying, how reliable we've all been, and with all of our busy schedules, and then I'm getting here, and I'm like, guys, I got an issue. But no, all good here, man. A lot of big pickups this week in the hobby for me. I'll share some at a later time, but I am buying personal wise. I got a lot going on. We're moving next week, finally, year and a half in the making. So been doing a lot of packing every night. Hobby related, actually, I did put a card on auction on Fanatics Collect. Started last night. Begrudgingly put it on auction. It's a Jackson Julio True Rookie Super Auto, 1 of 1. So go bid. I just felt like it was the right time, but it's sad to see the card go. But as Gary and Matt told me, that not to get too emotionally attached, and I listened to them. So Godspeed.
We might not ever have a future episode.
I'm out of the hobby now.
That is that's a huge card, Kern. To have the update non-auto just sell for $30,000. That's a huge sale for not only Jackson Churio, but any superfractor going forward.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a huge comp for this spring. And Churio, I mean, I don't know that there's a bigger prospect, hotter prospect right now in my mind when you're looking at a year 2 player that could go out and win an MVP. And at the year 20 years old. So I think you're going to do well there, man. I really do.
Hope so. What do you got, Bubba?
We are packing our Mickey and Minnie Mouse hats over here, getting ready to head to Disney. So we're heading out in the morning. Yeah, my wife is she the other day she's like, hey, they got this great deal right now. For like $500 a person, we can get another extra bonus fast pass ×2. It's extra perks. You don't have to. I'm like, honey, look, we're already at like 20 grand. Come on, really? And she's still going, man. We're still like trying to plug into this thing, but it's our 3-year-old daughter's first Disney trip, so we're going to go all out for this. And our boys went about 5 years ago, so on the personal side, looking forward to that. Nice little family getaway. We usually say it's a trip and not a vacation when you got 4 young kids.
Yep.
So that's my world on the personal side. Hobby side, I'm going to call it the week of the Leo for me, is what I'm going to call it. So I've done a little back-end Leo purchasing, continue to do so. As I always say on the show, I love that these are delayed a little bit because it gives me a little more time to buy. So I'll probably buy some more, but I don't know. Something just hit me the other night. Like, I just feel like Leo's underpriced. I just feel like he's got so much upside. I just love where he sits right now. So it was the week of the Leo for me.
Slow week. I had a few reds and supers.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Good stuff. Well, Ham House is in full effect, guys. We've got baseball workouts starting with all the boys. Basketball season is in full effect. So springtime for us is just nuts. It's actually a little bit of a lull. We looked ahead at March. I think March and April, if there's 8 weekends, I think 7 of them are engaged in some type of travel activity. So we got a lot going on, but everything is good, man. We are, as far as the hobby stuff for us, we've got a really good week. We had a nice lot that came into the house, a guy local looking to liquidate some stuff. We were able to pick it up and turn most of it fairly quickly, made a nice little turn on that. And then we were able to get a nice Bowman lot ahead of the timing, right, of spring training. And we've already, moved one of those cards. Had a big PSA order pop with the new grading structure of PSA. It's getting harder. We thought we had a couple 10s. Everything came back as 9s.
Did you gem those orange Walcotts?
9ers.
Man, I got a couple available.
Niner. Yeah, you got a couple gems. I know you do. But no. So that kind of thing. I think that's changing the hobby a good bit. We can talk about that later.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, so another good week, man. Continue to rock and roll. Right now, baseball is super hot, so we're gonna dive into this 1 minute with Little Matt segment.
Everybody, it's Little Matt from Hamhouse Sports. This is 1 minute with Little Matt from my school. I wasn't able to get it done, but Big Matt gave me the call, and I had to get it done. I hope you've enjoyed the podcast so far. All right, some big comps of the week. A Roman Anthony True Red sold on alt liquid auctions last night for $25,700, which is a massive sale considering it's $9,000 of the sale. And October, next, a Walker Jenkins Speckle sold for $1,100 on eBay, which that card has almost doubled over the past month. Jenkins stuff is definitely heating up. There's a True Blue ending on auction, which will be great to see where that goes. Also, an Orange PSA 10 sold for $7,200 this week, and I'm glad because I just picked one up. And next, a Leo DeVry True Gold Raw just sold for $1,875, which is a great sale. That card is up $800 over the past month. So these were the big Bowman comps of the week. I'm sorry I had to go quick. Back to you guys at the podcast.
What a commitment right there from the classroom. Had like the cardboard cutouts in the background and everything, dude.
Did his teacher record that?
There.
Yeah. Well, it was funny because he was waiting on the Roman Anthony comp to finish last night, but it finished late and he was in bed. And this morning he got up and he's like, Dad, I want to go to school early or whatever because he wants to hang out. And I was like, dude, you forgot the video. He's like, I got you. And so he like shot him from school.
So let me ask you a question.
That's awesome.
Hearing that Roman Anthony comp and seeing it as well is part of the reason why it's so hard. It's easy to second guess when the right time to sell is, and because I just second guessed me selling the Roman Anthony Super in September, and I think now I feel like I undersold it, and it's like, did I sell at the wrong time? Did I sell too early? So like we'll talk about that, when to buy and sell. It just things like that make you second guess, and that's when you start making decisions incorrectly.
So guys, we're gonna peel the onion back. We didn't even talk about this. This was not part of our show today, but I'm gonna ask you live here because it just hit my mind. I own 3 Walker Jenkins Reds. Okay, is it time to move on? Is the time right with as hot as he is, and the Roman Anthony just happened? Is it time to move one of the 3?
Matt, you're the Walker Jenkins guy. I'll give you my answer quick without thinking. Yes, 1.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's a great time right now with Walker being 3rd on the MLB pipeline list. This is what I always think about this, right? There's 3 outcomes of any kind of card transaction, in my opinion. The guy has a ridiculous season. I'm talking like, supersonic season, and you'd see some price increase, maybe it's 30 to 50% or whatever. Or he plays well, but the hype can't sustain itself, so the card stays flat or declines. Or he gets hurt or he has a bad season and the card's going to decline. So statistical probability says there's a small limit that card may see another bump, but if the hype's already here, go ahead and capitalize on it.
Especially when you have multiples, that's exactly the key, because you can't sell them. You're not going to sell them all at once. You got to roll them out. And
put the money where the mouth is. We sold 2 Walker Blues yesterday, and again, they were up probably 30 to 40% from where we bought them. And so we just said, let's take a little bit off the table here. We've got 2 golds coming back from PSA. Those will be put out there. But yes, with his comps where they are, I think you definitely need to move one now.
Yeah, and Walker to me is one of those guys that the hobby hasn't seen a lot of yet, just because he's been injured since he got drafted. And so to me, he's one of those I probably will move one, but I still think there's a lot of meat on the bone personally, because he's got so much talent.
I agree. I mean, he's had a continued hype period, and he had one big hype period like at release and all that kind of stuff, but we haven't seen a lot of him. But he's got so much upside that, I mean, I think there's another hype period coming. I truly do, and his market's gonna blow up, in my opinion. I'm assuming he stays healthy.
Yeah, going back to what we said, like at episode 3, we were talking about who could be number 1 a year from now. I think our consensus was, if he was still not in the majors, it was probably him, right? I mean, he's the obvious choice if he's not in the pros. So
Well, one thing too, we're pretty close to, he grew up around the corner from us, and we've met him personally and exchanged, a few things with him. But what I would say is, we just saw a video of him working out before he went to spring training, and they had one of those jump ladders, you know what I mean? And he came off of 2 feet and touched 11.2 2 or something like that. And when you look, and what the caption said on the video said, no ball is safe. And so when you see a guy that's 6'4", can touch 11 foot whatever. I mean, it's like touching the top of the backboard basically off of 2 feet. I was like, dude, his athleticism is freaky. And then a guy named Ryan Jeffers, who's a catcher with the Twins, played college ball at UNC Wilmington, which is right here in our hometown. I saw an interview with Jeffers, and they work out together in the offseason. And Jeffers said, rarely do you see a guy who has this physical thing, but this as well. Yeah. And he's just a good person with the mentality. And he said, dude, Walker, he said the kid's skill set is otherworldly, but he has the personality and the character and the mindset to manage the bigs.
There you go.
Now I don't want to sell one. So, thanks, Matt. Thanks for that, Matt.
He's obviously our favorite guy, so I just nerded out a little bit. So guys, this takes us into a segment. We kind of get a little teaser there. This episode is our longest episode. It's our most controversial episode, and it's probably our most beneficial episode for our listeners. But the segment, this is Gary's brainchild here. Gary, you want to do a segment called Hot or Not? And so I think this is going to be great for us to throw some feedback here. So I'll let you lead from here.
Yeah, so hot or not, I want to get you guys' opinions. So as I bring up a player, we're going to kind of just quickly run through that player. Thumbs up, thumbs down, or you can get, kind of in the middle. He doesn't really excite you, doesn't really say no to you. I'll then kind of go through, if we have any additional commentary on it, we can do that. But I just felt like it was the right time as people were thinking about who to buy and what to buy and who to sell and all the above. And so as I've noted several episodes already, baseball continues to rise. And I think that's the first place to start. Baseball is now up right under 7% in the last 90 days. I think by the time we hit mid-April, meaning baseball season has been going for a week or two, I think that number is going to be over 20%. I really, really, really do. I mean, I'm already seeing it on the NFL side as well. I know we don't cover a ton of the NFL. However, I stay in that kaboom downtown world, so I know how those comps go. Jaden Daniels went down for about 2 weeks. He's already almost back to where he was. I mean, so it's the card market in general right now is extremely strong and resilient, and baseball's got a ton of momentum. I'll go ahead and put this disclaimer out there. I mean, some of these picks today that I said I'm going to be wrong on for sure. I think all of us will be. I hope we're not. I hope we were like 50 for 50 today. I mean, I enjoy having these conversations with y'all, and just hearing y'all's take on it as well just kind of opens my mind up on maybe something I'd be looking at differently.
And yeah, I mean, controversy is good in this, in sports, in life, in the hobby, and everybody has a different goal and perspective. So, there's flippers in this hobby, there's breakers in this hobby, there's collectors. So, nothing's to be taken personally. We all have our own styles of collecting and trading and whatever you're trying to do. So just because we say that we like a guy or we don't like a guy, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't like him and that he's not good. It just means that for what we're trying to accomplish in our specific goal here in the hobby, that it doesn't fit our bill. And if we had all the time in the world to tell it from each perspective, if you were flipping, if you were collecting, if you were looking to trade, we would do that. But, we hope that you find value in what we have to say about these guys, and maybe you can apply it to what your own strategy is there at home.
Anyway, we'll start with that. Baseball kind of 6.93%. So with no further ado, here we go. I didn't create this sheet right here. This is thanks from our friends at Alt here, which I love what they do with this metric. Kind of gives it that stock market feel. Sebastian Walcott, it leads our list this week, 22% plus in the last 90 days. I'll just kind of quickly go through here. Matt, you can start us off.
I was going to say we are solely responsible for that. I still am a thumbs up on Walcott, just knowing where he is with talent-wise. So, yeah.
Yeah, where I stand on that. I thumbs up all the way. His market still has a ton of growth.
Yeah, thumbs up. I mean, I love he's getting pricier, but he's probably about where he should be now for where he's at. And I love him. So, yep, still an thumbs up for me on Walcott. Dylan Cruz, this is 20.63%. Dylan Cruz. Matt?
Thumbs down on Cruz. I just don't see a skill set there that has the hype that is needed to sustain hobby value.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I'm not buying Dylan Cruz right now. Doesn't mean that I wouldn't be opportunistic. I just think that given his market and his value, it hasn't really his prices haven't really crashed per se, so it's still pretty high. But if I could find something of good value, I think he's a buy. And really, I say that just because he got a good amount of at bats under his belt the end of last season, and thinking from a just from market standpoint, 2025 Bowman is coming out, or 2020. He's going to be a rookie in Topps Chrome in 2025, and I feel like the rookie class this year was so strong for Topps, between Ellie and Jackson Merrill and Dominguez and Evan Carter and Wyatt and Julio and all the list goes on, that a lot of people in the Bowman world got into the Topps Chrome world, and Topps Chrome rookies kind of had a big uptick. And I feel like people are just going to continue to be on that wagon looking for those Topps Chrome rookies. So I feel, and the two biggest guys in there are James Wood and Dylan Cruz. And so I feel like he could be a buy right now because of that. I feel like once Topps Chrome releases later this year, that you could see an uptick in his market. From a actual player standpoint, I'm not sold on him. But again, it's a guy that I'll be opportunistic on if I see the right opportunity to buy.
Well, I'm going to give a different take. I'm doing a huge thumbs up on him. And here's why. 119 at bats, 12 stolen bases. Okay, in his debut with the pros last year. That's at a pace right there of 50, 60, 70 steals a year. Not many guys can do that. That can also hit 30 home runs. And so I feel like he's one of the rare breeds to be able to do Acuna type, Ohtani type numbers where you're getting, 50 steals, 30, 40, 50 home runs. And to me, I'm a big buy on him. I think he's being priced. He's being priced like he's an average or above prospect. And to me, he has the upside to be a 30, 40. I could see an orange. And this is crazy what I'm about to say, but I could see it. I could see a PSA 10 orange in 2 years going for 40,000 of Dylan Cruz. If he is what I just said. So Gary's, the upside is there.
Gary's mindset is Babe Ruth, Shohei Ohtani, Dylan Cruz.
Dylan, come on the show and make us a believer. I'm a believer.
I love the different opinions here.
He's an Acuna type. All right, moving along. Junior Caminero. I know also we're a huge fan of him on the show. 18.78%. Maybe we talk about selling supers too early. Maybe I sold my super to Kern, my buddy here, a little too early. I'd been waiting for the junior uptick. Everybody appears to be on junior now. It's a great time to be buying Caminero. Shortstop, huge power, huge pop. But that's my opinion. So, Matt, thumbs up, thumbs down. Where are you at on Caminero?
Yeah, I'm thumbs up on Caminero. And again, I kind of contrast Caminero and Cruz, right? Like, I look at ceiling on these guys. Like, I think Cruz has a higher floor than Caminero, more stable, more steady, whereas Caminero is hit or miss, right? But I think Caminero has a much higher ceiling because of, just some of the intangible stuff, right? You've got an international prospect, you've got shortstop, you've got mega power, and then you've got that swag. You saw him in the Dominican, whatever that was, the recent thing. I mean, he's over there flexing and dancing and stuff, and I don't like that in the major league thing, but I can tell you this: the kids at the ballpark, they wear chains because freaking Acuna wears chains. They do all that, second base, whatever they do, which I hate. I promise, this is a side note, Big Matt, on a rant for a second. I'd be kicked out of the current travel leagues because I would hit so many batters with high, tight fastballs for everybody dancing around. And
Matt's an old school kind of guy, clearly.
Dude, I'm Nolan Ryan, man. Forgive me for saying that. That part of my person I have to tone down. So rant over. Caminero, thumbs up.
Yeah, Caminero, 2 thumbs up for me. Matt, I think you're spot on there with he's very hit or miss. I think he's got a really high ceiling though, and I love him for this season. I think he's he's playing at Steinbrenner Field. He's playing in a minor league park. Not that it's like a bandbox or anything, but I just feel like when you're a major leaguer and you got that kind of power and you're playing in a park like that, look out. I just feel like he's in for a big season. His market's up, but he's still a buy in my opinion, and I am still buying him heavy.
I love players in their card market when they have previous highs that you can see. Caminero's had those where you can see where his cards have sold in the past, so where that potential is, kind of like a stock that's hit a high or it's hit a low. Yeah. Caminero hit a low, and now he's moving in the middle between those two numbers. There's a lot of upside with Caminero. And as the kids would say, he has the drip. And to me, I think that's the reason I'm a big thumbs up on Caminero. I think he's just one of those guys I could see with the big sunglasses, chains on, kids loving him, flashing on SportsCenter. So I'm thumbs up
Gary,
on Caminero.
you and I were talking about that on the phone the other day with certain guys, and Caminero was one of them, of just looking at where their market used to be at their peak and thinking about what position were they in at that point from a ranking standpoint, how were they playing, and you kind of get an idea of where they're at now, and you kind of assess the whole situation. It's interesting because you could kind of see where it has the potential to go, you know?
Yeah, 100%. Next on the docket, Roman Anthony, 15.74%. Matt?
You know, it's super interesting. I am kind of a mid on Anthony right now. I'm kind of right here. And the reason is because he does have a market, you know, in Boston that's a big, you know, market per se. I just personally haven't really seen enough of him to have this kind of gut take on him that he's what everybody says he's going to be. So it's one of those guys where I just quite frankly don't know. I know he's already expensive. And so you've got to contrast him against like a Jackson Holiday as far as value, but he doesn't have the same kind of hype. And I think, if I remember correctly, he was kind of drafted late. You know, he kind of got slept on, you know what I mean?
Second rounder.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a late peak type thing, but because his size and all that kind of stuff, I think he's going to have some significant performance to sustain the value. So I think he's actually a decent buy because he's in demand, but I personally would not want to have his cards going into the season.
Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you in the, you know, my thumbs here in the middle, but more pointing downward. Just because, again, like he's the number one prospect for a reason. He's put up ridiculous numbers and has had major success the more he climbs within the minor league system. So it's no knock on his performance. His prices are so super high right now. Like Little Matt just said, his red finished at 25, which is going to bring his oranges up to probably, you know, I would think 10K minimum, you know, and it's like, I don't know where it goes from there because I don't know what he is at the major league level. And he's right there. I think he's going to be a good, solid ball player, but I don't know what he is going to be. Is he a perennial all-star? Like, is he going to continue to have hype? I know Boston's a big market, but is he like, I don't know, you know, he's not that clear number one prospect where you're like, this guy's a superstar and this guy is going to, like, I can't pinpoint what he's going to be as a major league player, and he's almost there, and his market is so high that I personally am not buying in for that reason. If I just don't see in my eyes of like where he's going to be in the major leagues if his market is going to continue to rise, like I thought with Julio or, you know, with guys like that. Like I just don't know. So his price is being where it is. I'm not buying in.
So I'm going to kind of be right there with you guys, I think, but a little different perspective. I think Roman Anthony is going to be one of those guys that you look back on and he had a really, really, really good Major League Baseball career. But I saw a comp, and you sent it last night, Matt, and I agree with the comp. Shin-Soo Choo. I thought that was a phenomenal comp that somebody had put on him. Shin-Soo Choo had some years. He had some good years. You know, he had 157 steals in his career. He had 218 home runs. It's not a bad Major League Baseball career, you know, and he was a good athlete. I think Roman Anthony's going to be a good Major League Baseball player. But if I'm looking long term at where his cards are going to be, I think in 10 years, 5 years, 7 years, I see his True Orange right now that's going for $7,000 going for $400. That's my projection. I do think as a flip right now, if you're a flipper and you want to get in and you can find a deal on one and get one and move, I think as long as the hype's there to call up, play the game. But yeah, I do not see him being a perennial superstar.
Yeah, Gary, I think that's a good point that you make there, because like when I say I'm not buying, there's buying in different respects. Are you buying to flip? Are you buying to, you know, flip at a show? Are you buying it for a quick flip? Are you buying to, you know, collect and hold long term and hope that his value, you know, 10x's? Because when you look at, like, when I'm buying thinking that, not to flip, because like I think, like, you know, the established vets that I have the big cards of the Mookie Betts, Aaron Judge, Juan Soto, you know, guys like that, like Ronald Acuna, their prices are ridiculous. Their values have held. They go up. Sure, they go up and down, but they've held pretty steady and they're pretty expensive. Like, do I see Roman Anthony? Am I going to pay $12,000 for an orange right now? I am, if I think that his orange is going to be $30K like Mookie Betts, or $25K like Mookie Betts, or 30 like Aaron Judge. But I don't see that, so I'm not buying it at that price. But for a flip, it's a different story. There's only so few guys that hold that value well into their major league careers.
All right, moving along. Aidan Miller. This one was super surprising to me. 14.5%. Matt?
Yeah, I don't know a lot about Aidan Miller. I mean, I know enough. I mean, I think he's got a good size profile from what I remember. You guys definitely study more than I do, and little Matt's the one that feeds me this. But yeah, he's Phillies, right? I'm thinking about the right one.
Yes, sir. Shortstop.
So he's got the size, dynamic and the power dynamic. I'm a little bit unproven on him from a standpoint of, kind of at bats and plate appearances and all that kind of stuff. I just don't have enough of a gut feel on that. Also, I will tell you this, Philly's market's actually really tough. Like, they don't buy cards. You know what I mean? Like New York, LA, they buy cards. Like Philly doesn't. I mean, look at Trey Turner. I mean, Trey Turner is an all-star. You know what I mean? What he did at the World Baseball Classic. He's won a World Series. He's won a batting title. And Trey Turner's cards do nothing. You know what I mean? And so there's not this high demand there. So again, with him, I'm probably going to go thumbs down, specifically from a hobby perspective.
Yeah, I happen to love Aidan Miller as a ball player. I think he's going to be a real solid. I don't think he's going to stick it. He might not stick it short. He might move over to third, but he's going to be a real solid major leaguer. He's got the bat tools. He's got the tools. He's got power. From a long-term hobby standpoint, from a market standpoint, I think that there's room for his market to grow. I think his prices right now are too cheap. I think he's going to continue to climb the rankings in Pipeline and in Baseball America, because he does continue to impress. He struggled a little bit at his promotion last year, but I mean, his blues are, I just picked up a blue 1010 for $550. It feels too cheap for me, given
value,
how
actually.
good he is.
I didn't know that's where his price point was.
Yeah. So I like him as a buy right now. He's not a call up guy right now, so there's still time for him. I like him as a buy. Thumbs up.
Yeah, I'm kind of right there where you are, Kern, but probably more in the middle. I wouldn't say I'm bullish, but I also think if you want to pick up a couple of Aidan Miller, there's potential there, and there is going to be hype there. When the time comes that he gets the call, there's going to be hype. So for me, again, I don't see him being in the Caminero, Wood, Churio category that we've talked about in the past, a Walcott or a Leo, but I do think Aidan Miller is a value play. Like you mentioned earlier, if you can pick up, if you've got one to pick up, I think there will be a day you probably can make money on Aidan Miller. So that's it for me with Aidan Miller. I'm moving along to the next guy. We talked about him earlier in the show. He was my week's theme, Leo. So Leo was up 13.95%. I may be part of that. So Matt, if you want to give us your opinion on him.
Yes to Leo. For those who can't see, we just bought a True Gold. The thing that I continue to come back to, I think it's what's obvious as we're having this conversation. First of all, I think this is going to be our most controversial episode. I think people are going to be like, "What do you mean, Roman Anthony?"
Oh, it's definitely going to. Oh my gosh,
we're going to get that. But here's the thing, man. A lot of what I look at too is age to level and this whole underlying thing. Like, there are legitimately only 10 guys in the entire baseball card market whose price point gets demanded and sustains a high level, period. I mean, look at Nolan Arenado, Goldschmidt, like all these guys. It's not there. Their values aren't there. It's Acuna, it's Shohei, it's Judge, it's a few others. I mean, so my point is you have to decide, does this guy have that caliber of potential, and he has the hype right now. So when he has the ceiling and the hype and the age to level is good, now I'm going, this guy just has that buzz and that energy. And so that's where Leo is to me. I've got a heavy buy on that kind of age prospect with that kind of ceiling, the kind of comps that he's getting. And so that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I don't even think I need to say any more other than, why is everybody with the first name Leo only, like, why? They just go by Leo, and you know who they are. Leo DiCaprio, Leo DeVries. Like, you just know who they are. Leo. I want to call myself Leo. Like, They know who I'm talking about. No, but I'm right there with you, Matt. I don't think I need to say more. You said it exactly the way I would. Thumbs up.
Huge thumbs up for me. Matt, you hit on great points there, his age, but you also get little hints from organizations when they move guys through quickly at young ages of what they think about them. And when a guy skips Dominican leagues and he goes straight to A-ball at 17 years old, that tells me something. And not only did he go to A-ball and do something, he showed pop, he showed steals, he showed defense. I'm all in.
I think he's one of those guys that has superstar potential written all over him.
Yeah. Here's the interesting thing with this is somebody we're not talking about today, but I think about is Salas, Ethan Salas.
So,
right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say is there's so many factors that go into what make a guy valuable. Like Salas as a catcher is a harder position to drive value, not necessarily the case at shortstop. So when you had Salas come out and whatever he was, A-ball, high A or double A, when he was having that great run, you know what I'm saying? Like it hyped up real quick. But then as a catcher and all the kind of injuries or whatever, it just kind of staled. That's where I think you have to pay attention. When you get that kind of young guy with that kind of pop, you also have to consider the position aspect.
For sure, 100%. I think the one thing, and I don't know if it's in other people's minds, but it is in my mind, and I am a Leo guy, but I think because both Leo and Salas are really young guys, and the Padres have a tendency to rush people through their system, and they did. I think they did that a little bit with Salas, and people saw that he didn't have the success he did, and people forget that he's so young. But the Padres have a tendency to do that. So, like in the back of my mind, I just sometimes worry, like, are the Padres rushing him? Are they going to screw him up? Like, is that going to have any sort of effect? Like, is he as good as we think he is because it's the Padres rushing him through the system, or would any system be rushing him through? I believe in him. I'm just something to keep in mind. I think with Salas, he was rushed, he was pushed through, and I wonder if that, plays into the account of, in anybody's mind, of, are they doing the same with Leo, and are you hesitant to buy for that reason?
I'm all in.
All right. Gary's all in. Bubba's all in.
All right, moving along. We've hit this guy earlier, so we'll go through this one quick. I think we've already given our opinion on him. Walker Jenkins, 13.3% up. Matt?
Yeah, thumbs up for me. I mean, you look, here's what I use. This is me. We sold a Jackson Holiday True Gold in the $12K range just before his debut.
Who'd you sell that to?
Quit smiling. So, because I know you turned it around. So we were able to do that, right? So that kind of sets a value market for me. When you can get a Jenkins True Gold now in the 35, 4K range, that's where I see that ceiling on it. So that's how I'm looking at Walker right now. If he has that kind of hype and that kind of pop to be that guy, I still think you have massive upside. So thumbs up for me.
Yeah, thumbs up for me as well. Like I said before, it's I think that's a great point that Matt brings up. When you look at comparable players in previous Bowman years, and you look at their market and what their golds were doing or what their blues were doing, and you compare it to Walker Jenkins' market now, I think there's still room for this to for his market to go up.
Gold's still doing 8K.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people got I think last year the baseball market was really, really soft. Like, it didn't feel like there was any sort of real buy period, and I feel like a lot of people got burned by the holiday market and by the Wyatt Langford market, because I had never seen hype like that on two guys. Like, I mean, I haven't been in the hobby long enough to know prior than that, but like, I've never seen hype since I've joined the hobby in that, like those two guys. And a lot of people paid, top dollars for their cards, and while Wyatt's still like a great player, like, is his market ever gonna get back to where it was? Probably not, unless he's finishing in top 3 MVP voting, so thumbs up for Jenkins.
Thumbs up for me on Jenkins. Talking about the card market in general, my thought, just kind of wanted to share this thought on this. I mean, one of the big things that has changed, and I've said it and I'm going to continue to say it all spring, is supply and demand. The number one way the market goes down is when people are flooding it with no discretion. When there's no discretion to why they're selling or when they're selling or who they're selling. And that's what's happened the last year and a half or 2 years. People just needed the money, and people needed to get out of the space that were in it. There was a lot of flippers or people that needed the money. This year, there has been a change. There has been a distinct change that people are holding. They're being more selective when they sell. They're holding their cards closer to the vest. That indicates great long-term value and short-term value for all of us. So upside on Walker, I love it. A thumbs up. Again, I'm going to go ahead and say if he's not in the pros by the end of the year, he's my pick for number one in Baseball America next year, number one, if he doesn't get called up. Moving along to another name that I love, Max Clark, 13.2% up on the hot list right now.
Yeah, I'm thumbs down on Clark just because of being tight with Walker and watching him. They were in that same draft together, and I think a lot of people in hindsight were surprised that Clark went ahead of Walker in the draft. And again, because of that, I just kind of hadn't followed him. So this is not an educated thing; it's just kind of a gut thing. And I would say Max Clark's not a guy that I'm really looking at.
Yeah, I don't own any Max Clark, so I don't know a ton about his prices and what his market is like. I want to say his refractors, if I had to guess, probably do around what, $500-$600. I don't know. Feels high to me, but he is on the up and up, and the Tigers are on the up and up. So I'm kind of in the middle here, more so just because I don't really have a feel for him or for his market. So I'm Gary. I'm going to leave this. I want to hear what you have to say, but I'm kind of in the middle in here just because I'm neutral. I'm not buying in, but
I'm going to give an interesting perspective here. I'm going to go back to Junior Caminero here. My kids knew who Max Clark was before I did. And so there's a value here with Max Clark, with YouTube and his drip and his kind of progression to getting drafted. The kid just turned 20 years old. He's a ball player. He's been a ball player. He's got the flow. He's got the golden locks. He's got the drip. He's got speed. He's got pop. I guess guy's got a cannon for an arm. I'm very, very much a thumbs up on Max Clark. I think his values at where he's priced. Again, when you talk about pure upside from where he's being priced today, if this kid continues to progress, I think he's got 3x value on where he currently sits in 2 years.
I just looked at his last refractor sale, PSA 10 was around $600. So he's just a little bit shy of where Walker is as far as that's concerned.
Yep.
Okay.
He's behind Walker in projectability, which is what I like as well. We always talk about when guys are going to get the call and how that can potentially hurt their value. I think Clark has this ability to simmer again another year in the minors and come out next year, Baseball America, way high on that list. So that's another thing I like about Max Clark. All right, moving along. Last guy on the hot list from Alt, and then we've got a couple, and then we'll roll through the colds. Mike Trout, 11.72% up.
Dude, you've got a 3-time MVP. There's only probably 5 or less players in Major League Baseball history that have done that. I don't know what the actual stat is, but it's not many. There's probably not even 5 that have won 3. I think there's probably only 5 that have won multiples, but Trout did that. The problem with him is he was the face of baseball in a dead period of baseball. And now everybody's fighting to be the face of baseball. But it's like you have to dethrone Mike Trout because he's still out there on the field, But he's still young enough that I think Trout could come out and do Trout kind of stuff and reclaim that throne real quick from guys like Shohei or Judge or whoever. The question is, short term, right? Short term, it's all hinging on his health. Long term, I think that you're going to just have the opportunity to own a guy who changed the face of baseball as it transitioned from the steroid era into this new modern era, which is all drip and hype or whatever. I think Trout is really the guy that put it on his back and got it through that tough season.
Yeah, from a long-term perspective, he's a buy. Now is probably the best time to buy him, I think, but it's a hold for long-term. I think his value will hold long-term, but he's a buy in my opinion. Not necessarily short-term, for long-term. He's a buy, and it's probably a buy now.
I'm going to share a different perspective again before I give a thumbs up, thumbs down in the middle. Last season, 109 at-bats, 10 home runs. Over 600 plate appearances, that's 60 home runs projectable. Last season, through 109 at-bats, 6 stolen bases. Over a whole season, that's almost 40 stolen bases. You're talking about a guy that just turned 33 who still has the ability to hit 50 home runs, who still has the ability to steal 30, 40 bags, and who is going to cross over 500 home runs if he stays healthy, who is going to be looked at as an icon. If he plays another 7 years and he's healthy, all the injury years get forgotten. I mean, it's all forgotten. So to me, before I give the thumbs up and thumbs down, it's an extreme, to me, he's the biggest upside player on the board if he comes out and he crushes it this year. I think because we've talked about this multiple times today. You look at the past ceilings. The ceiling there is immense of where it's been in the past. And when you've got that past ceiling, people feel more comfortable to get there again.
Yep.
And I just want to share this with the Mike Trout comp of the golds, to see where people view that right now. I had a massive gold sale on Fanatics here about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, where that card went for $60,000, where the previous comp was around $40,000. So Fanatics collect $60,000 on a Mike Trout. That's how bullish it is. That's how bullish people are on Mike Trout. That's the kind of potential that card has going forward. I could see that being a $120,000 card mid-season if he stays that hot. Now, on the flip side, he comes and gets hurt again, that card's worth $25,000. Because now people have gone from, Mike's going to do it. So you talk about high risk, high reward. I'm going to put him in the middle because of that, and only because of that. I love Mike Trout. I still think Mike Trout is a hell of a baseball player. I really, really am rooting for Mike Trout. I think he's good for baseball. Matt, you and I had a conversation about Trout about a year and a half ago. I don't know if you remember this conversation. I'm like, dude, I got 25 blues. What do I do, man? You're like, you got 25 blues?
You seek help. That's what you do.
And so, to me, I'm rooting for Mike. I have sold a lot of Mike over the last year and a half. I had to, just because the risk that I was carrying there. I'll always hold on to some, just because, again, what he did for baseball. But I honestly do believe, when we talk about hot list, cold list, he is the number one guy, in my opinion, that could fluctuate high and low. I mean, I'm just going to leave it at that. So there's no way I can give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down, because I don't know what it's going to bring. But if he hits 50 bombs, that gold will be double the price.
Well, here's the thing. Last thing I'll say about this too is, like, there's like a refractor on bids right now, and I think it's at like 4K or something like that. I think it's a 7 too, so it's not anything crazy. But here's my point on that. Like, that card can't go much lower. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think there's a whole lot of downside. Now, maybe like a big gold or something like that, because you're looking at a limited market cap. But like on a refractor or a base auto, like, dude, come on. I mean, he's a 3-time MVP. So to me,
it's a high floor on those cards.
Yeah, it's a really high floor, and the ceiling is stupid if he hits. But to me, that's a card you buy and you put it on the wall, or you put it in a drawer and you come back and look at it in 10 years.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. So we've gone through the alt list. I'm going to go through 5 other names, folks, that we talked about that were not on the alt list that we came through. So I'm going to hit these really fast, because we got to hit the cold list too. And we want to respect you guys' time. We know you're heading to the gym or you're heading to work. So Wyatt Langford was number 1 on the list at 10.45%. I'm just going to go down the list and then we can hit them quickly. Wyatt Langford was up 10.45%. Evan Carter up 9.17%. Friend of the show. Pete Armstrong, 7.5%. We had 2 other names. Jackson Chourio, even though the percentages don't show yet for Chourio, I don't think they've updated. We had the huge Chourio superfractor sale, and there's a ton of holding going on Jackson Chourio right now. It's very hard to find inventory because people know what they've got with Chourio. And the last guy on the list is Bryce Eldridge. So, guys, if y'all want to hit on Langford, Carter, Eldridge, Crow Armstrong, and Chourio, y'all can hit on them all at one time, or we can go one by one, whatever y'all think's best.
I am going to be sideways on Langford just because his numbers are already high. Again, I think the ceiling is stupid, but he has that chance of doing that Jordan Walker thing. If he doesn't have a good season, it's going to be like, who is this guy? Because quite frankly, he's already 24, or something like he's older, because of the college thing. So I'm sideways on him. I'm sideways on Pete Crow just because I don't know a lot about him. I'm up on Chourio, absolutely. I am up on Evan Carter, absolutely. And then who was the last one?
Bryce Eldridge. Monster of a man.
Yeah, Eldridge, I definitely would be up on him just because of his stature and the bat. There's still some unproven stuff there.
I'm up on all those guys, all 5 of them that you named, but most specifically Wyatt Langford. He figured it out, man. At the end, figured it out last year. And again, one of those guys you look at where what his ceiling could be, monster high ceiling. He's expensive, but he's also cheap when you look at where his prices used to be. And man, I'm telling you, if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong, but he's in for a monster season, in my opinion. He figured it out at the end of last year, so he's a buy right now, in my opinion. Evan Carter, he's too cheap right now. He's way too cheap, and he's way too talented to be that cheap. And you saw what he did in October of 2023, and he played in the biggest stage, and he had success. He's healthy now, in my opinion. Pete Crow, another guy. I feel he does things that have superstar potential out there in the field. So I like him as a buy as well. I think he's in for a big year. And Eldridge is just a beast. He's got power. He's got that. He's got the power that the hobby loves, and he's going to be, but we'll probably be seeing him in San Francisco in the summertime. I don't know if I'm missing anybody on that list here, but Churio, yeah. I like how you guys are, everybody's holding his cards except me, who puts his. No, I'm, I know what I have, but I also, it's also the right time to sell if you're in on somebody so much. If I didn't have the debut patch of Churio, I wouldn't be selling that card. But if you can make out real well, I was in at a good price on the Topps Chrome True Rookie, it makes sense, but I would not be selling that card if I did not have the debut patch. I believe in Churio more than anybody in Major League Baseball right now. So 2 thumbs up on Churio, thumbs up on everybody else on that list.
So for me, I am going to mimic, I think, what you said, Kern, minus one player. Wyatt Langford, I'm not as bullish on. I think Wyatt Langford's going to be a good baseball player. I really do. I wouldn't mind to own a card or two of his, honestly, but I just don't have the same conviction. I do think he's going to be a good player. There's just something to be said what a guy has to do when he's already gotten the hype that Wyatt's gotten and then it's fallen. You got to come back and you really have to do something special, and I'm not so sure that he is. So I love Evan where his value's at, Evan Carter's value. Bryce Eldridge, just one again. I know I shared these stats before, but I want to share them again. This kid just turned 20 years old. In 446 at-bats last year, 23 homers, 92 RBIs, 291 batting average at 19 years old. In last year, he got all the way up to the AAA level at 19 years old. So, folks, he did that not only in single A, double A, did that in the AAA level as well. So Bryce Eldridge, to me, one of my favorite prospects out there. He's a first baseman, but the guy's going to be in the major leagues very, very soon. Love Bryce Eldridge for a long, long time. Jackson Churio is an obvious. I'm super, super bullish on Churio. I mean, as much as anybody in major leagues, my core 3 for a long time have been James Wood, Jackson Churio, Junior Caminero. I told Kern that a year and a half ago. I'll die on those words. I said those were going to be 3 superstars of this league for a long, long time, and I still feel that way. Churio, I love. And the last guy, and if you don't love this guy, something's wrong with you, Pete Crow Armstrong. His mom was the mom in Little Big League, guys.
Yeah.
Remember her?
Yeah.
Nice.
She's the mom in the Little Big League. If you don't love Pete Crow and his mom was the mom from Little Big League, I'm going to share something with Pete Crow because I know, Matt, you had said you didn't know as much about him. Last year had almost 30 stolen bases in his major league debut, but the power wasn't there. Only 10 home runs last year and 372 at-bats or so in the pros. In the minor leagues, showed the pop. Showed 20 home runs, 16 home run pop in the minors. And that's in 300 at-bats, 423 at-bats, 430 at-bats. So the guy's got 20, 25, 30 home run power in the major leagues, but he's got world-class speed when it comes to baseball. He's got 50 stolen bases. He's a Gold Glove center fielder playing for the Chicago Cubs, who haven't had somebody like this in a while, kind of since Chris Bryant. I really like Pete Crow as an investment. I think the Cubs are looking for somebody. Cubs fans are looking for somebody to kind of latch on to. I think Pete Crow's got it. Again, the kids love him. When you talk about the drip and a guy that's come up and kids knew who he was 2 or 3 years ago. Love Pete Crow Armstrong does not get his due. This year he will.
Yeah, I have a friend that's a big Cubs fan in Chicago, and he's been saying for the entire offseason, like, Pete Crow is him. Towards the end of last season, he's him. Like, he's buy. People love him out there. He's got that swag, And
did you see the clip of him last year going from first to third?
Yeah.
Did y'all see that? And I mean, the kid is inside the park home runs.
Yeah.
I mean, that kid is ridiculously
He's got highlight reel potential.
Absolutely. Well, that wraps up our hot list, guys. I know we covered a lot of time there, so we'll roll through the colds real quick. We've got about 7-8 names on it. So we'll start off on our cold list. These are not necessarily all done by the numbers because Alt doesn't have data on some of these guys. If people are holding these cards, you don't get as much data. So the first one that comes to the list is Samuel Basayo. So want to talk about him real quick, and we have him on the cold list. Number one, are we thumbs up, thumbs down? Are we in the middle there? And why do we think he's cold at the moment?
Yeah, I'm thumbs up on him. I really think people are holding him, and that's why you're not seeing comps. But then somebody will get impatient, and they'll put one out on bids, and people are only going to be paying the last comp. And I think a lot of this interesting dynamic is the supply and the demand, as well as the hobby's reaction to people wanting to pay comps. Like, we're comp junkies. It's just like, what's the comp? What's the comp? What's the comp? At some point in time, it's like, who cares? The problem is when you have a guy like this with an incredible skill set, he's super young, had great success through all the different leagues. It's just everybody's holding on to him. And so when a card does come available, people are hesitant to pay over that last comp because there's no liquidity in the market. So that's kind of why I think these guys appear to be cold, but I think they're just really, really hot. It's just nobody's selling them.
Yeah, Basayo's market's an interesting one. I love Basayo, so I'm a thumbs up on Basayo. It's an interesting one in that I don't think that his prices are where they should be. His market's gone up and down where, I've sold a gold of his in a 10 at $3,900, and then I've rebought at, $2,000 in a 10. And when you look at that compared to his play, it's inconsistent because his play on the field throughout the minor leagues has been one of the most consistent of any minor league player. So I don't understand. I've never understood his market and the reasonings, and I don't know whether it's because people are concerned he's a catcher or that he's not going to stick there and he's going to be a first baseman, or I don't understand it because his value doesn't match his on-field play because he's been consistent and consistently good. And I do think he's going to be a solid major leaguer. I think he's going to have an impact on that Orioles team if he's not traded. I think he's going to have a significant impact. So I like him for where he's at now because you can get in at a good price. Gary?
Again, Matt, you said this earlier. This may be the most controversial episode of all, so I'm about to do it, boys. I think he's going to be Adley's daddy, to be honest. When you look at the numbers and you look at the age profile, Matt, you mentioned earlier, kid was in AAA last year at 19 years old, getting it done, AA level, all the way up, had a huge season. But he just turned 20 years old, and to me, the profile, the size, he's 6'4". I mean, the kid's a beast, power, and he steals bases. I mean, that's the other thing. He's not some slug, I mean, he's an athlete. And you look at Adley's minor league numbers in the age, Adley's 27 years old, and you look at the age and where they were and the numbers they were putting up. I mean, and I know y'all all remember what Adley did when he came up in the card market. I mean, there was a tremendous amount of buzz on Adley Rutschman when he was coming up. I mean, he was the guy. I just think that people are sleeping on Basayo right now. I just think they really are. I don't think that there's the knowledge that he's out there. I don't think that he gets the buzz. When he does, when that finally happens, I think he's gonna rock it. I really do. And I mean, I'm saying that from the standpoint of I'm a collector of him, number one, but I also, when you just look at the stats, and I'm a numbers guy, and you look at the age profile and you look at what they've done, if Basayo does it again this year coming out, I just don't know how people can continue to sleep on him. Yeah. I just don't.
He checks every box. The only box he does not check is the fact that he's a catcher. That's the only box. His exit velocity stats are stupid.
Yeah.
Not to mention they could move him to first, I mean, if that's what they want to do, or move Adley to first. I mean, they're going to find a way to get that bat between him and Kobe Mayo. I mean,
if the bat plays, he's going to be in the lineup.
Yep. Moving along, Zaro Montes.
Yeah,
Matt, I know one of your favorites here.
Yep, thumbs up, man. I like exit velocity. That's what I like. Listen, it's sexy to hit a baseball over 100 miles an hour consistently. There's not a lot of guys that do that. I mean, when you have a guy that's 6'4" that can hit a baseball like that, when he gets the swing stuff figured out, the ceiling is just massive. So that's where I am on Montes.
It's funny. I don't have much thoughts on Montes. It's one guy that, since I've been in the hobby, that I have just never bought, and not because I don't like him. I've just never paid attention. I just never did. I don't know why. It's never anybody I've thought about buying. It's never. I don't know why. So I don't want to. I don't want to speak to him because I don't know anything about him. To be honest with you, I know he has power. I know he's got a badonkadonk on him. But I know he's got power. I know he's also in a very deep Mariner system. But I've never bought into him, so I do not want to give an opinion when I don't know enough about him. So I'd like to hear what you guys have to say.
Yeah, so for me, I'm a thumbs up, and I'm going to give the direct comp in my mind. This has been the guy I've thought this guy was from the time I first heard of him a couple years ago and started watching him and researching him. Yordan Alvarez Jr. That's who I think of right there. I mean, a guy that's batting close to 300 now career in the minors, Yordan-esque, has tremendous power. That's who I see this guy to be. And he's 20 years old. You look at Yordan. I mean, Yordan, all he's done is come up and produce. Nobody talks about Yordan. They sleep on Yordan. Yordan is on the pace right now to be a Hall of Famer. I mean, and that I'm not calling Lazaro Montes. Let me be clear here. I'm not calling him a future Hall of Famer right here, right now, but I think he's got that type of potential with his power and his average profile. This is a big year for Lazaro and his value. Got up to high A last year and got it done. He'll be in double A, and I could see him being a guy that gets that jump from double A to the pros if he gets it done. I really could. All right, moving on from Lazaro. Next on the list, Jordan Lawler. So Jordan Lawler's down 2% over the last 90 days. His baseball's been up 7%. So Matt, want to get your opinion on Jordan Lawler?
Another guy I don't know a whole lot about. I just don't see anything super exciting. I mean, to me personally, a lot of what I look at, man, is that exit velocity, size, and the sex appeal, if you want to call it that. And Lawler is like a steady, solid baseball player, but I don't see the ceiling there. So I'm thumbs down.
To me, his market is really cheap. And I think he has a ton of talent, and I think that it's one of those guys that came up and failed and had some injury issues as well. I think he's one of those guys that's too talented that he'll learn from his failures, and I think he's going to be serviceable. And his market is just too cheap right now, so he's a thumbs up. He's a buy for me right now.
He's a buy for me, and I'm going to tell you why. We talked about Roman Anthony earlier. Look at Jordan Lawler's numbers, and then go look at Roman Anthony's numbers in the minors the last 2 years. Just look at their numbers. I mean, go back and look at 2022. Look at Jordan Lawler's 2023. Kid came up, had some, it wasn't like last year. He didn't get it done in the minors. He batted .318 in the minors last year. So it's not, the kid got called up early. He struggled a bit. There's been people that's happened to before, many moons before. He still just turned 22 years old. I love the profile, but I love the opportunity. So I'm not going to call Jordan Lawler again a future Hall of Famer. I'm not going to call him anything other than I think when you have the potential to get a guy, and I love to talk about X, I think this is a potential 5X player if he comes out and he balls out. That's why I like him. It's not any other reason than that if Jordan Lawler hits, he's gotten so low that he could 5X, and that's why I like him. Next up on the list, we got James Wood. James Wood was 2% up again in the last 90 days. That's, again, baseball being up 7%. James Wood's up 2%. Matt, what's your take on James Wood?
Yeah, I'm thumbs up on Wood. He's terribly difficult to find. You can't find anybody selling his stuff. There's a lot of hold there. I think the ceiling's super high. He's a guy that if I could find some stuff of him, I would. He had a lot of hype coming out. I think he's just starting to take his stride and really figure out his swing and major league pitching and stuff. So I know you and I are in the same camp on this one, but I'm thumbs up on Wood. You just can't find him.
Yeah, no,
I'm have it all.
Well, I was about to say that. I mean, he's probably been my number one hold, along with Spencer Jones, who I still love. I love profiling guys that are mammoth of a man. You look at Bryce Eldridge, you look at Spencer Jones, you look at James Wood. But again, I go to James Wood, and I love guys that have that power speed combo. It's just rare to see people that have 30 home run, 30 stolen base potential. And James Wood, to me, has tremendous upside. To only be up 2% in an outfield beside Dylan Cruz, to me, makes absolutely no sense to me. When a guy didn't, it's not like he came up last year and struggled. To me, I think he is extremely undervalued. I'm all in on James Wood. Kern, what's your opinion on James Wood? Do you have any James Wood? You interested in James Wood at all?
Yeah, he's one of those guys I've been interested in buying James Wood for a long time now. And I just haven't had the right opportunity. But I'm gonna start buying him. I think he's a buy. I mean, he's a beast, man. He's tall, he's powerful, and he's got speed, and he's hella talented. So he's a thumbs up in my eyes. He's a buy.
The only thing for James Wood for me, again, and this is truly a question back to the Walker Jenkins thing, and this one's even tougher with James Wood for me. It's really, I mean, I probably own 12 of the 25 oranges. I probably own 15 golds. I own several reds. I'm all in. I mean, when I said I was all in on Caminero, Wood, and Churio, I meant it.
He's in that conversation with those guys, the superstars. In my eyes.
I just don't know, like with him, I think I just got to either got to take the fall with him or I got to roll with him. And I think for me, I've held him this long. I believe in him. I think I'm going to roll with him.
Well, there's an underlying question in our conversation today, and this has been a longer episode. We actually had a longer episode on the Baseball America Top 100, which is actually right now our most listened to episode, which is interesting. I think a lot of guys love the intellectual data that we bring to the table. We've gotten messages on that, so I think this is super unique and why people enjoy it. But we also have the other episodes we bring a ton of just like fun and the personal side, so it's a good mix of both. The thing about this though, guys, is there's only a couple of times to sell a guy, right? And this is something I think we need to touch on in another episode, you know, as far as, do you sell at AA promotion, AAA promotion? Do you sell at debut? Do you sell until sophomore season? You know what I mean? Like, do you sell at release? Like, I think that James Wood falls into that case where he's seen this in his market, right? And so now you're at a spot where you are relying heavily on a performance-driven thing because it's a guy you believe in, and that's going to either pay off in the tune of like 2, 3, 5x, or it's going to be a tough day. And again, it just depends. If you leverage across the market, likelihood is you're going to hit it on one of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, I just decided, you know, I would say about a year ago, I was just going to put my nuts on the table, and it was either going to happen or it wasn't. You know, when it came to James Wood and truly Caminero and Churio, all these guys. I mean, to be honest, when baseball took a shit the last year, all these guys took the shit with it. I mean, Churio went down. Churio hit highs. Wood hit highs. Caminero hit highs. And everybody dumped these guys. Well, now they're here. Now they're the guys. They're the next generation of baseball. And to me, I want to have a piece of that. Because if they want, like you just said, if one of these three guys is Juan Soto, one of these three guys is Ronald Acuna, where are the Reds then? Where are the Oranges then? They were talking 4 or 5X again from where these guys are currently. And to me, a big part of what I enjoy in prospecting is that ability to get a 4 or 5X guy. There's not a lot of those potential guys, and those three are there. So I know we've spent a lot of time on Wood, but I'm all in. If you're interested in James Wood, Instagram, Baseball Bro Sports Card.
Got you.
Julio Rodriguez up 2.8%, but again, down compared to the market that's up 7%. Matt, are you up, down, or middle on Julio Rodriguez?
I'm kind of middle right now, and here's why. You know, Julio hit it during the pandemic when the hobby market was just nuts. So his prices were not only inflated due to that, they were just inflated due to the home run derby situation or whatever. And so the skill set is there, but again, his value is still holding significantly higher than guys who are more proven than he is. So that's why I'm mid on him.
Yeah. With Julio, as far as if he's a buy or not, in my opinion, it's a simple question to everybody, to yourself really, was 2022 a fluke? Like, can he get back there? Or I'm sorry, was 2024 a fluke? You know, if it wasn't, he's a buy.
So Julio is another one of those guys for me. When I went heavy on Bobby Witt, I went heavy on Julio. When you look at Julio's stats, everybody crushes Julio last year for his 2024. And I don't think they really look at the underlying stats. His career numbers, his big year that everybody wanted Julio, his rookie year, he batted 284. The next year, 2023, he hit 275, 32 home runs, 103 RBIs. Last year, he batted 273. Okay, so what is he showing us? He's showing us he's a 270 to 285 hitter, right? That's what he is. The stolen bases are still there, same as his rookie year. He didn't forget how to run. What happened to Julio last year is the power stroke fell a little bit, okay? And sometimes you see this happen to guys, whatever it is in their swing, whatever's a little bit of bad luck, you know, whatever it may have been. And with Julio, again, just 24 years old, The guy to me that I've always comped Julio to, again, with his persona, with the way he holds himself, is Acuna. I've always just looked at him as a very much like the hobby loves people like Julio. Baseball loves Julio. And I'm a buy on Julio. I met Julio personally and got to spend some time with Julio in Vegas last year. And I asked Julio directly, how was your journey? And, how did you get here? That guy's hungry. He's hungry to show that last year where this guy came from is he came from nothing, and his dad was driving him. I don't know if y'all seen his story, but I mean, his dad's driving him across their country to get, to play baseball. And this kid's always known as baseball. And, I think last year he had some bad luck. I think Julio is a cornerstone of this league for the next 15 years. I mean, again, 24 years old. He's already got 80 career home runs. He's already got, in the league, he's already almost got 100 career stolen bases. I love this kid. I think when we talk about value, we compare him to Acuna. If you just compare him to Acuna, now his golds are down to like $5,000 territory, okay, where they used to sell for $20,000. You look at Acuna in his averages, his golds were 15 to 20, is where Acuna has kind of been on his gold. I think it's very easy that Julio's back at 10,000 on a 9.5 gold. I think it's very easy to see his gold back at 12.5. Kind of Corbin Carroll-esque to me is Julio. I mean, in my opinion. So I like Julio. I really do. I see him as being a perennial all-star. I wouldn't be surprised if we look back on Julio and he's a 10-time all-star. That's my opinion
I
on
just
Julio.
recently picked up a refractor 1010 of his for I want to say it was like $1,300, $1,200 maybe. And it's a buy, man. When you look at some of these prospects that are unproven, I get the whole hype thing. I'd rather spend $1,200 on Julio Rodriguez, who had a bad 2024. In my opinion, that was the fluke year, than spend $800 on a guy that's 3 years away. It just feels like more of a safer buy. I don't want to correct myself. I said if you think 2024 was a fluke in that it was just a bad year for him, then he's a buy. But if you don't think it was a fluke, then don't buy.
Yeah, for sure.
Next on our list, boys, Gunnar Henderson Gunnar is, as of this moment, up 1% against the baseball market that's up 7%. So essentially he's down 6% in the views of buyers currently.
I just think his situation is the hype was there last year with the kind of potential MVP season. I'm kind of mid on Gunnar. I love Gunnar. I like the Orioles. I'm a Ripken guy at heart, so I love seeing, this new talent, at shortstop that's done Ripken type things as far as, that kind of MVP early in his career. What these guys have to do to maintain the hobby card values is hard for me. And that's the piece that I struggle with, and that's the only reason I'm mid. Love him as a player. I just don't know how much upside you see unless you have a true MVP season. And you might as well, in that case, go throw $100 on, FanDuel and pick the MVP.
Yeah, I mean, I think the situation with Gunnar and that, say, his market's down is because, to Matt's point, his market was just so amped up last year because he was having an MVP type season the first half. I think he's an extreme talent. And I think he could have seasons like he just did in the first half last year. His strikeouts were in a bit, but I think Gunnar's going to be an all-star. I think he's a great player. I think if you haven't bought in now, you might have missed the boat just because his prices are through the roof. Maybe they've come down from last year. He's not a guy I followed a ton from market perspective, but it's one of those guys I feel like you might have missed the boat on him at this point if you haven't bought in. If you bought in prior to last year, great. I'd hold. I think he's a good guy to have cards of. I think he's very expensive right now still, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, I think his market being, again, only up 1% could change pretty quickly here. There's a red on Golden right now that's already taken off. Again, it's hard when you look at Gunnar Henderson, and I want to not like Gunnar Henderson right now. I really do. I really want to just give a negative thumbs right here. I do. But then when you look at him, Shortstop, 6'3", 220, just turned 23. And coming off the year he had last year, guys, this is a giant year. 37 home runs, 92 RBIs, 21 stolen bases, 281. I'll tell you where I look at Gunnar Henderson. I'm a current hold, but the first time that he gets an Ohtani drop or he gets one of these other drops where something happens, I'm going to buy. And when there's an opportunity, I'm going to buy this kid. I don't think it's now. I think I missed the boat, unfortunately. I did buy some Gunnar early on, and I pulled the Bobby Witt again and sold it too early, and regret it now, obviously. But I mean, wow. I mean, how much talent is there coming up, boys, from the major leagues? This is an exciting time to be a Major League Baseball fan. I mean, Gunnar Henderson is a stud.
Let me give you a quick snapshot of this Gunnar thing from a personal perspective. One of the biggest cards we ever bought, right along the same time we bought the Michael Jordan, a Gunnar Henderson orange popped up. And we were able to pick it up. It was a 9 with a random grading company, HGA or somebody like that. I can't remember. We bought it for $3,500 and thought we were stupid. We were like, what are we doing buying a $3,500 piece of paper? And this was literally like when we first got into the hobby, right? Well, we sent it over to PSA at 9 and we sold it at $7,500 when, in fact, he debuted at number 1 on the prospect list that spring, okay? Here's the interesting piece. He's gone all over the map, but an orange Gunnar Raw, our same card, just sold for $8,091. That was July of last year during the middle of his hype. So again, a really interesting dynamic. We sold at Baseball America number 1 prospect a 9, which is comparable to Raw, at $7,500. In the middle of an MVP season, a Raw did $8,000.
Barely any movement from.
Yes. Yeah. So this goes again to prove my point. You have to capitalize on the early hype, or you have to be willing to wait and hold. Now, again, if Gunnar comes out this year and has another MVP season, I think these oranges are moving to 10, 12K, right, in that Raw PSA 9 level. And so to your point, Gary, there's this great ceiling on it, but you can see the volatility in the market between, debut and performance.
And that's a good point. Mm-hmm. So back to Gary's point just before, and that where you just said, if he has the opposite and he doesn't come out and have that MVP type caliber season and that card goes to 5,000, I'm buying.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%.
I do believe in Gunnar Henderson long term.
Absolutely.
Yep. So moving along, last one on the list here, Jackson Merrill down 3.4% against the market being up 7%. So Jackson Merrill essentially would be down 10% compared to the market currently. Thoughts on him, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, again, hot name. I think you can make quick money if you buy the card right. Still a little bit unproven for me as far as his power and kind of the entire skill set. I think he's a great major leaguer. I think he's going to add a lot of value to me with the Padres, and I really like the work ethic and all that kind of stuff. I've read some stories about him. So again, it's one of those guys. Make quick money on him because his name is hot. I just don't know that he has the long-term sustainability yet. So to me, it's only a buy if I'm getting good value and the opportunity on a short term, but I'm not a long-term hold on him.
Yeah, talk about being a controversial episode. I mean, guys that are going to be listening to this. There's guys, Padres fans that love Jackson Merrill, and there's, Jackson Merrill, I think another one of those guys that was such a hot buy last season that's the reason it's hard to sustain that. But I see it as a big gamble if you're willing to gamble right now, because his prices are pretty high still. His market is what did you say, Gary? Down 1%. Or up 1%?
No, down 10%.
Down 10%. Yeah. His prices are still pretty high, but if you're a Jackson Merrill believer, I think this is a big year for him. I think if he has continued success like he did last season, look out for his market, and it's a great buy if you're buying right now. I don't think you'll ever see those prices go down again, but I think it's just one of those guys that if you're willing to gamble, it's a good gamble.
Oh man, Jackson Merrill, I was in on him early. I made a lot of money on Jackson Merrill. Thank you, Jackson. I did sell him at the right time, mostly, fortunately. So that's one I did get right. Jackson Merrill's been a surprise to me. I didn't expect what happened last year with Jackson Merrill, honestly. I think he surprised a lot of people. I was interested in our Evan Carter episode that Evan brought him up specifically and talked about his swing and how good his swing was. So there's obviously something there with Jackson Merrill and the player that he is. And again, he's 21 years old. I mean, so it's hard not to like Jackson Merrill, in my opinion. I'm still not there yet. And I think Jackson Merrill can get me there this season. Jackson Merrill does it again this year, I'm a buyer. That's where I'm going to put Jackson Merrill. I don't watch enough Padre baseball, to be honest. I don't know why. I'm just not there yet on Merrill as a current buy at his numbers. So I'm going to put him as a hold, but I do see myself as a buy if he puts up the numbers again. Then I'm going to be a full-time believer on Merrill. So we've got a long time on this, boys. I know we've covered a lot. I really enjoyed this. I did have one other player, though. This is a person, you don't even have to mention this guy, but this one's worth sharing for the value seekers out there again. This is a guy I've been huge on. I'm still huge on him. I know his father personally. He's local to my area. The guy is a baller. He will be a major leaguer probably this year. I've mentioned his name one time before. This one makes no sense to me, why he's getting crushed the way he's getting crushed. I don't know what he's down because Alt doesn't show it. Brady House. A Brady House True Gold PSA 9 went for $212 in December.
Wow.
Okay. So we want to think about a value buy, folks. If you're buying golds of this kid, auto golds, PSA 9 at $200, something's wrong. I'm just going to tell you right now, because this is a guy that will be in the major leagues. He will be in the major leagues for a long. He was a shortstop that's going to get moved to third base. He hit 19 bombs last year in the minor leagues at 20 years old. The kid can slug. I mean, he's going to be a slugger. He's going to be a 30 home run. Probably an Austin Riley type comp, honestly, with 6'4", 208. But I promise you,
wow,
yeah, he's a big guy. I mean, projectable. This guy's been a prodigy. Talking to his dad all the way through. Played national baseball throughout his life and traveled the world on world teams. I mean, almost had Bryce Harper type following at a younger age. Was that kind of player. He's going to be a Major League Baseball for a long time, and he's going to be on a really good team alongside of James Wood and Dylan Cruz and C.J. Abrams. I mean, the Nationals long-term. Brady House, to me, let's just go back to the Austin Riley comp, okay? Let's just say that Brady House becomes Austin Riley. That's a 10X card, okay? So Brady House, way too cheap. Way, 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 way too cheap. I own a ton. I'll go down. I'll burn in the fire going down with him. I'll crash and burn. I own like 4 or 5 of the reds, the golds, the oranges. I'll sit here and wait because this kid one day, if I don't ever get any of them right, this one's too cheap, boys. He's too cheap. $200 for a gold auto of a guy of this caliber. I mean, we're treating this guy like he can't hit a baseball. I bet somebody on this show today, it's going to be Kernerham. One of y'all is going to buy a Brady House today. Who's it going to be? That's the real question.
Probably
you should. One of y'all, if y'all don't buy a Brady House gold today for $200, something's wrong.
I just forget about him. I'm glad you just brought him up again. I just forget about him because I don't see people asking for him.
So did Baseball America. They had the kid at he's been top 25, top 35, top 45. Since he's gotten
there were some injury
drafted.
Issues there, right? And it's in this.
I mean, a little bit is his first year up. He had that. But, I mean, he was a first-round draft pick in 2021, 11th overall. This is not some, he just found out how to hit, luck type kind of guy. I mean, this dude's he's a baller. I mean, he had a struggle in 23, came back last year, got all the way to the AAA level. He is going to be a pro baseball player, and he's going to be there a long time.
Do you want to hear my biggest buy right now? I'll give my secret out.
Oh, yeah.
Elijah Green.
No, that's my other one. I go to ton Elijah. I'm in the red on Brady House and Elijah Green, boys, but I tell you, I do like him too. Elijah Green, Matt, I can't believe you're not the Elijah Green guy. Exit velo king, man. Now, he does strike out 50% of the time, but.
Yeah, I know. Again, it was one of those guys where I don't have enough belief in the long term. He was so hype out of the what was he, like number 2 or 3 draft pick or something like that?
I mean, he was a first rounder.
Yeah, I think he was like top 5 or whatever. Yeah, it's a super. I'm actually loving you guys nerding out on this and really bringing all this perspective to the table. It's really, really cool to see because I know you guys know what you're talking about. Baseball, you're sports fans. Like I'm loving this almost as a viewer, as a consumer, and so I know that our audience is. This is just a chance to bring perspectives to the table and have conversation that hopefully can help you and bring your own perspective to the table. I really think this guy's This is the baseball preseason episode of the Sports Card CEO. Like, this is going to hit the market when spring training is going, and this is our gut take from the hobby, from lovers of baseball, on what we expect the year ahead. So I think it's super valuable. Appreciate you guys tuning into the Sports Card CEO. Keep the feedback coming. All the love to all you guys. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.